So we have a lot of questions tonight. Joining us now, Chris Swecker, former FBI Assistant Director, and Frank Loveridge, former Secret Service Special Agent in charge. Frank, let's start with you. Now, this video of President Trump golfing was taken about 6 years ago, and you can see many photographers since have gotten similar video and photos through the trees. Isn't this just kind of an obvious vulnerability, and could it not have been raised before?
Laura, thanks for having me on. And yes, you're absolutely right. So the way it works, protective operations, and I had been out there many times with President Bush at Andrews Air Force Base golfing, is you have a protective operations team that's going to be going out in advance. You have the detail and the shift that's with the president and other tactical teams as well. And you have a team behind you, and you move throughout the golf course as you proceed forward. There should have been a team in tandem on the right, a CSU team, that should have been moving with him to make sure there's nothing on the other side of that fence or in the shrubbery. As well as that, he was there for 12 hours, according to the reports today. He may not have been in the shrubbery for 12 hours, but he was in the area. Why wasn't he detected by a team that was doing a sweep? Was there a sweep completed, and did they just miss him?
Chris, I want to play something that the acting director of the Secret Service, Ronald Rhodes, said about the protective methodologies of the Secret Service. Watch.
The subject, who did not have line of sight to the former president, fled the scene. He did not fire or get off any shots at our agent. With reports of gunfire, the former president's close protection detail immediately evacuated the president to a safe location. The protective methodologies of the Secret Service were effective yesterday.
Chris, thoughts about that? It was an effective series of methodologies.
Yeah, every time the acting director goes on and sort of lectures us about how effective their methodologies are, I think a lot of people get more and more skeptical. And I'll tell you why. In this case, one alert, again, it was one alert Secret Service agent that did the right thing and took the shot. But this is not a resource problem. You know, he said they had all the resources they needed out there. I don't think it's a resource problem. You know, they can reprogram resources from investigations over to protection because less than half of their budget is devoted towards protection. You know, I think it's all about sort of catching up with today's methodologies that are much more proactive. And he pointed that out, but he blamed it on lack of resources. That's a cop-out. Agencies had to deal with lack of resources or not enough resources all the time. You got to prioritize your resources and put them where they're needed the most, especially if your core mission is protection. That's where your resources need to go.
Well, Frank, when you look at and I know this area well, I've been to this club a number of times, it seems to me that it's fairly obvious that if it's not a wall, it's going to have a porous perimeter. And it would seem, again, if you cannot secure the perimeter of where the former president is, it wasn't effective. It's not the landscaper's fault or Trump's fault or his this is a breakdown once again in the basic mission of the Secret Service. And in this press conference today, I was just outraged by it, like patting each other on the back, going, "Oh, you did this and we did this and he saw this." Well, thank God we did see the muzzle, but that guy should never have gotten in those bushes.
Laura, he was 300 yards to 500 yards away from the president. And as the president progressed forward, he would have been even closer. The whole thing comes down to this. Did they treat this as an off-the-record movement? That's one of the things we do. We have off-the-record movements, impromptu movements, and we also have on-the-record movements. Off-the-record movements is what we don't tell anyone we're going there. But through predictive analysis, this individual could have easily thought it's Sunday afternoon, President Trump is going to be on the golf course. This should have been treated with all of the resources. They should have been out there, and we didn't have the right resources there. There was nobody on that perimeter walking around that would have spotted the assailant, and this never would have happened. We would have got him before he even got into the street line.
Well, a simple question, Chris. How many agents does Kamala Harris have with her? How many does Trump have with him? Maybe they're the same number. I mean, is that relevant given their different movements? She doesn't seem to go out in as many crowds as he does, I don't think. Certainly doesn't golf. But those are just basic questions. I don't believe we have the answers to those, and this is the second attempt on his life.
Yeah, we'll never be given those numbers. They might give them to Congress in closed session. But, you know, I'll say this. Again, it's not a resource issue. This is a methodology issue. This is a mindset, I think. It's a leadership issue. And that until we start looking at that, I'm not sure we're going to see a whole lot of change. I mean, I go after the FBI in the same manner. You know, it's a leadership issue, the issues that we dealt with at the Bureau. So I don't like criticizing federal agencies, but the mindset has to change. I mean, this is 2024, and things are very different than they were 20 years ago.
I mean, some nutbag guy is able to hide in bushes for 11 hours, bring a couple of backpacks, a long-range weapon, and he could have gotten a shot off. They're like, oh, he didn't have the former president in his sights. That's supposed to make us feel better. I mean, Frank, that doesn't make me feel... Frank, just one word. Does that make you feel better that he didn't have him exactly in his sights? And then he was chased off.
No, it does not. It does not, Laura. And the other thing you have to remember, too, is did we have the assets we needed there? Did we have a helicopter with Huntsman? Did we have FLIR, forward-looking infrared systems, involved? We could have pointed this person out. Was there drones that were flying in the area that would have picked this person up? These are all the assets the President of the United States gets. I was on the President's detail. I felt very, very much in line with the fact that whatever I asked for, I was going to get. And President Trump needs that. There's more of a threat against President Trump. We just had an individual on July 12th that was arrested, a Pakistani national with ties to Iran. And there's more threats coming out against President Trump as well. And, you know, we just have to address the threat.
We got to get answers to all these questions. Chris and Frank, really, really appreciate your input tonight. Thank you.
Hey, Sean Hannity here. Hey, click here to subscribe to Fox News YouTube page and catch our hottest interviews and most compelling analysis. You will not get it anywhere else.